Welcome back. In today's lecture, we are going to discuss about arithmetic pipeline, how pipeline execution works when we perform arithmetic operations. Okay. In the last two lectures, we have discussed about basic pipeline concepts, and we have also discussed about pipeline scheduling. Okay. In basic pipelining concepts, we have discussed what is pipelining, a real life example, what is your the role of latches in between the stages. Then we have studied the classification, series versus parallel, serial versus overlapped versus pipelined. Then we have studied degree of overlap, depth of pipeline, structure of pipeline, and static or dynamic pipeline. Okay, so these things we have discussed. After that, we have seen a linear and non-linear example, and we have also seen a few important performance metric, that is to evaluate speed up, to evaluate efficiency, to evaluate throughput, clock skew, jitter, logic time, setup time. And after that, we have seen pipeline scheduling, how a non-linear pipeline is scheduled, and how to evaluate the forbidden latency, non-forbidden latency, minimum average latency when you are given a reservation table, and how to draw a state transition diagram so that you can schedule a latency sequence of non-forbidden latencies. Okay. Now we already know that the basic purpose of pipelining is to speed up the execution of instruction and to speed up the arithmetic operation. Okay, so let's say we have to add 1000 numbers, and for that, what we need to do, we cannot have this sort of facility that we are adding two numbers. After that, when that operation gets completed, then we are starting again the addition operation. So it will take a lot of time. Hence, we can speed up the arithmetic operation by overlapped execution. Okay, and if we have 1000 instructions, that is addition, then loop, then jump, then branch, then so many instructions, so those instructions can also be scheduled in a pipelined fashion so that we get maximum amount of throughput. Okay, now first we will look at fixed point addition example. So this diagram you must have seen in your digital logic course. So this is a ripple carry adder. You have studied full adder, half adder, and this is a ripple carry adder. So why it is used? This ripple carry adder is used to evaluate the addition result of more than 2 bits. Okay, so if you have multiple number of bits and you want to add the bits, you have to use a ripple carry adder. Okay, so let's say you have 4 bits, A0, A1, A2, A3, and B0, B1, B2, B3. You have to add these A and B. Okay, you have to add A plus B. Sum will be S and carry will be C. This operation you have to perform. So this is how this operation you must have seen in case of half adder, in case of full adder. So half adder adds 1 bit only, full adder adds 2 bit only, and when you have more than 2 bits or multiple number of bits, you can use ripple carry adder. So ripple carry means the carry would be forwarded to the next state. So carry would ripple, carry would traverse forward. Okay, so rippling of carry gives a worst case performance. That is why this ripple carry adder we have used. Okay, because in case of full adder, we compute sum and carry, and then we again apply a full adder. So if it would be a sequential operation, it would be a worst case delay. So that is why we are using here a ripple carry adder. So let's say this is one full adder. So A0 and B0 are the inputs, sum is S0 and carry is C1. So this carry is transmitted to the next full adder, that is FA1. Here A1 and B1 are the input, this C1 is A1, B1 and C1, these three acts as an input. Sum is S1, carry is generated C2. C2 is transmitted, or C2 works as an input to the second full adder, that is FA2. Okay, so this is how the carry is forwarded to the next full adder, and finally we get C4. Okay, so if we evaluate the delay, delay would be 4 multiplied by carry generation time in full adder. Okay, so we can think of this C0 to be negligible, because initially when we do not have the inputs A0 and B0, the carry may be thought of as negligible. So C1, C2, C3, C4, these are the 4 carries. Okay, and your delay would be 4 multiplied by carry generation time in full adder. So that is how ripple carry adder is constructed, and the delay would be 4 multiplied by time to generate C1, time to generate C2, time to generate C3, and time to generate C4. That is carry generation time. Okay, so this is a non-pipelined fashion. So one, you evaluate A0, B0, and then you evaluate the sum and carry. Again you evaluate A1 plus B1 plus C1, evaluate the sum and carry. So this is a kind of non-pipelined manner. So we can make ripple carry adder in a skewed way, so that by the time when we get carry, we are already available with the A0 plus B0 or A1 plus B1. Okay, so this is how we can do that. So this is your initial carry, it may be thought of as negligible, A0 plus B0. Okay, this is your S0. Okay, and this carry would be transmitted here. Okay, these are latches. So these latches are used to store the intermediate result, or these latches are used to store the carry bit. Okay, and by that time this C1 gets available here, A1 plus B1 must be available to full adder. Okay, so this S1 here, carry here, and by that time carry reaches here, A2 plus B2 is available in FA2. Okay, so that is how you can implement the ripple carry adder in a skewed way, and this will benefit you in terms of throughput, in terms of delay. Okay, so delay here would be very less as compared to the previous case, and throughput also increases. So the realization is, when you are putting or feeding data into second stage, we are parallelly feed the next data too. Okay, that means when your carry becomes available, you would have already been evaluated the addition result for the next stage. So delay of full adder is T of FA, and delay of 1 bit latch is TL. So I have already shown you that these are latches. So intermediate carry results are stored in latches. Okay, so let's say delay of full adder is TFA and delay of 1 bit latch is TL. Okay, clock period must be greater than or equal to TFA plus TL. Okay, so your clock period, that means clock cycle for any one particular stage, so that would must be greater than delay of 1 full adder plus delay of 1 bit latch. Okay, so your clock period must be greater than this quantity, so that within a clock period you can complete the addition of 1 bit. Now when the pipeline becomes full, one result is generated every time t. So that concept we have already seen in the wash, dry and iron example. So when your pipeline becomes full, or when your latches, all the 3 latches in the previous diagram becomes full, so after every clock period you are available with one result. Okay, so this type of scenario which we have shown, which we have seen, that is ripple carry adder in a skewed way. So this type of scenario I am talking about, this type of scenario would be very useful and convenient for vector addition sort of operations. So vector addition means, let's say you have this kind of loop, that is for I equal to 0, I less than 10,000, I plus plus. Okay, and AI is equal to BI plus CI. So this is your vector sort of operations. So in these cases, this skewed ripple carry adder would be much useful to you. So in this case, you would have a maximum or greater amount of throughput, and it would be convenient for vector addition. It would be the delay would be very less as compared to the non-pipeline fashion. Okay. Now this scenario would also be useful if you are dealing with arrays, if you are adding 2 arrays or large set of data. Okay, so numbers are fed to pipeline one by one, and it will give you a very useful results. Now we are first looking at floating point addition operation in this arithmetic pipeline lecture. So floating point addition, I have already told you in the floating point arithmetic and integer arithmetic lectures that there are four following steps. First step is you have to compare the exponent and you have to align the mantissa with respect to the smaller value of exponent. So let's say you are adding these two numbers, 0.9504 into multiplied by 10 raised to power 3 and 0.82 into multiplied by 10 raised to power t. Okay, so this is a smaller exponent, 0.82 multiplied by 10 raised to power 2. So this is your smaller exponent. You have to align this number a with respect to the exponent 2. So this would be 9.504, okay, multiplied by 10 raised to power 3. Okay, so that is how you can I think there must be some wrong. Yeah, so this is your smaller exponent. So with respect to a smaller exponent you have to align mantissa. Okay, the next step is add mantissa. So you have to add this number plus this mantissa, and after that you have to normalize the result. So let's say the sum is 1.0324, and in case of floating point arithmetic, if you are not following 754 standard, this is how you have to normalize the result, and after that you have to adjust the exponent. So if you adjust the exponent, it would be 0.10324 multiplied by 10 raised to power 4. So basically what I mean to say is these are the four steps you need to perform: compare exponent and align mantissa. So exponent comparator plus mantissa alignment is there, that is the first step. Then mantissa addition, after that normalizing, and then exponent adjustment. So now these steps, these all four steps can be easily mapped to various pipeline stages, and as like addition, the subtraction is almost similar to it. So we have to see how these four steps can be mapped to various pipeline stages. Okay, so how exponent alignment plus mantissa shifting can be done by a small ALU, fraction addition or subtraction can be done by a big ALU, and after that normalization and rounding hardware. So these are four stage floating point addition steps. How we have to map these into hardware? So this is your hardware diagram. So you have two numbers, a is equal to a into 2 raised to power p, b is equal to b into 2 raised to power q. P is exponent, q is exponent, a is mantissa, b is mantissa. Okay, so p is exponent, q is exponent here. Okay, now you have to compare the exponent. So p here, q here, and exponent subtractor. Okay, so this will compare the exponent. So it will evaluate what is the maximum exponent, and that maximum exponent would be right shifted by how much maximum it is. So let's say 10 raised to power 2 and 10 raised to power 3. So 10 raised to power 3 would be shifted to, or 10 raised to power 2 would be shifted to right, one bit right. Okay, and these are your a and these are your b. So these are mantissa. So here this is your fraction selector. At a time it can select a b or a. After that, whatever you have maximum exponent, okay, that you have to shift right. Based upon that you have to shift right. Okay, so this is your right shifter. This is your stage 1. Okay, so exponent comparator plus mantissa shifting, this comes your stage 1. So as we have discussed, exponent alignment plus right shift operation, this would correspond to state 1. After that you have to add the mantissa. So you have to, big ALU adds the fraction or mantissa, or it can be used for subtraction. So big adder is used to add or subtract. After that you have to normalize. For normalization you have to find out leading zeros, and whatever leading number of zeros you have for that you have to perform left shift operation. So this is your left shifter. Okay, after that this would be your exponent adder, and this would be your mantissa result. Okay, so S0, S1, S2, S3, S1, S2, S3, and this may be your S4, where you perform rounding of operations. You can also say that this to S0, S1, S2, and S3. So in total you are having 4 states. Okay, and this is how these 4 stages are mapped to hardware. So first stage is exponent comparator and mantissa alignment, that is your stage 1. Stage 2 would be fraction addition or mantissa addition. Stage 3 would be normalization, and stage 4 would be your rounding off and renormalization. So that is how you map it to hardware. There would be 4 stages. Okay, so I have written for sake of simplicity. Stage 1 is your exponent comparison, mantissa alignment with respect to a smaller exponent. Okay, then stage 2 would be mantissa addition. Stage 3 would be normalization, that is count leading zeros and shift left the mantissa. Stage 4 is exponent correction, that means rounding off and renormalization. And please note an important thing here is these blocks, these rectangular blocks are your latches. Okay, so these latches are used to store the intermediate results, and that I have already told you. Now how you implement floating point multiplication operation? So multiplication operation is much simpler than the addition or subtraction. You have to add the exponent, because when you are multiplying these two numbers a and b, what you do, you add the exponent. So 3 plus 2 would become 5. Second step is multiply mantissas. So these two fractions are multiplied, and after that you have to normalize the result. So there are only 3 steps for floating point multiplication. And division is very much similar to multiplication. You have to subtract these two exponents, perform fraction division and normalization. So addition and subtraction were very similar. Similarly, multiplication and divisions were very similar. Now a pipeline for you can simply implement the pipeline for multiplication operation. Now we are going to look at how you are going to implement a multifunction pipeline. So here I have taken the example for addition and multiplication. Within a single pipeline, how you are able to achieve the result for addition as well as multiplication. Okay, in the last lecture we have seen the capital X and capital Y. Capital X, I said you can take the analogy for addition, and capital Y you can take the analogy for multiplication. So within a single non-linear pipeline, you are able to generate multifunction outputs. Okay, so this is your multiplication pipeline. So that is add exponent, multiply mantissa, normalize and round off. Okay, so this is your linear pipeline of multiplication. Now this particular stage, that is multiply mantissa, can be further broken into these two stages, that is partial product and accumulator, because multiplication operation involves your partial product. Let's say I am multiplying 13 into 14, so 13 would be multiplied by 4, whatever result will come, that would be a partial product. Then 13 would be multiplied by 1, whatever result would come, that again would be a partial product, and then you accumulate, or then you add the partial products. So this multiply mantissa step can be broken into these two steps, that is partial product and accumulator. So again and again you will generate the partial product, that is why this is a self loop here, and again you may have to add those partial products. So that is why this is again a self loop for accumulator also. Then normalize, rounding off, and it may be possible that you need to again normalize according to IEEE 754 standard. So after normalization your rounding off would be there, and after rounding off you may again need normalization. So this is your more correct version of floating point multiplication. Now we have to see, we have already seen the floating point addition. This is for floating point multiplication. So how you are going to implement a multifunction output for addition and multiplication? Addition you have already seen, multiplication is this, and addition you have already seen. Now please see the multifunction output. Okay, multifunction pipeline. Okay, so this is your linear pipeline for floating point addition, which you have already seen, that I have drawn in very brief. So exponent, subtract, then partial shift, add mantissa, find leading ones, again partial shift, rounding off and renormalization. So this is for floating point addition according to IEEE 754 standard. First you have to subtract the exponent. Subtract the exponent means you have to compare the exponent. So let's say you have to add uh, 0.1 into 10 raised to power 4 and 0.35 into 10 raised to power 2. So first you have to compare the exponent. Okay, so this is your subtract exponent or subtract exponent comparison. Then you have to perform partial shift operation. So partial shift operation would shift one of the mantisas based upon the lower value of exponent. Then you add the mantisas. After that you find the leading ones, because you have to store the result in, you may have to store the result in IEEE 754 format. So you have to find the leading ones, then again you need to perform partial shift, then rounding off and renormalization. So that is how your linear pipeline for floating point addition can be performed. Now you have to combine these two pipelines. So subtraction, multiplication we have already seen. Okay, so this is for linear pipeline multiplication. This is for our linear pipeline for floating point addition. Now you have to combine these two pipelines. So combined adder and multiplier would be like this. So you have to compare the exponent. Okay, for addition or subtraction you have to compare the exponent and align the mantisas. For multiplication you have to add the exponent. For division you have to subtract the exponent. Okay, so this would be one stage which says exponent addition slash exponent subtraction slash exponent comparison. So or subtraction also mean comparison. So exponent add or subtract. After that partial product, because in case of multiplication you have partial product, in case of addition and subtraction you have partial shift. Okay, because you are going to add mantisas. And after partial product again you have to add those partial products or you have to add the mantisas. So this add would be similar to both of the addition and multiplication both. So partial product would be added together and this partial shifted mantisas would be added together for addition. And then you have to perform rounding off and normalization for multiplication. In case of addition or subtraction you have to find the leading ones, and then again you need to shift the mantisas, and then again you have to perform the rounding off and renormalization. So that is how these linear pipelines of addition and multiplication can be combined with each other. Okay, so this is a multifunction output. Okay, here you may have two arrows to specify one is addition result and one is multiplication result, or you may have single arrow itself. So single arrow would result either multiplication result or addition result, whatever operation you have. Okay, so this is your combined pipeline for floating point addition and multiplication. You can also call this diagram as multifunction nonlinear pipeline for addition and multiplication. Okay, now please see the individual reservation tables. So this is your reservation table for multiply. Okay, so let's say multiplication operation takes 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 number of clock cycles. Okay, and multiplication operation, let's say A B C D E steps are required. So this is just an assumption. Okay, I am not saying this would be the scenario which is required. I am just saying this is an assumption we have taken to show you certain important realizations. So let's say multiplication, for multiplication you need A B C D E, 5 number of steps are required. Okay, so A has only one check mark, B has 2 check marks. Okay, X here, X here. Don't see Z and these plus and this star. So just listen what I am saying. So A has only one check mark, B has only B has 2 check marks. Okay, so these are successive check marks, and this is again, so this is your extended stages. And in case of C again you have 2 cross mark or 2 check marks. In D you have 1 check mark at 5th clock cycle and 1 at here. Okay, and in E you have only 1 check mark. Okay, now please see that this is your forbidden latency. So 1 and 2 would be your forbidden latency. So collision vector would be 0 0 0 0 1 1. Okay, so these are your forbidden latencies. Okay, now let's say I am going to shift 1. I don't have to shift 1 or 2, but let's say I am shifting 1 or 2. Okay, so this would be a shortcut method to find out minimum average latency. So let's say this, if we again feed the input after 1, so here it would come, and if we feed the input after 2, x would come here. Okay, so there would be no conflict or there would be no collision. After 1, x would come here, and after 2 shift, x would come here. Now in case of B, if I shift 1, so this x, if I shift 1, it will come here. This x, if I shift 2, it will come here. Now this x, if I shift 1, it would come here. So x and x collides here at B. Okay, and similarly, if I give 1 input to this x, it will come here. So again, in 4th clock cycle, this x and x collide again. So x and z collides in B and C. Okay, so x and z collides in B and C, because when I am giving input to the x and it is going to the next clock cycle, here again already x is there, so it will collide with this x. So x and z collides here, x and z collides here. Okay, so if we are taking latency 1, it will result in collision. Now see latency 2. So if we are considering latency 2, okay, with respect to D, if you shift x by 2, here it is colliding. So in the D stage, 7th clock cycle, collision at D would occur. So here they are going to collide if you shift, or if you shift x by 2, because forbidden latency is 2 here. So if you perform shifting by 2, it will collide at D again. Okay, so what I mean to say is that your latency sequence cannot contain 1 or 2, because if you are feeding input at B or C by 1, they are colliding. If you are feeding input by, or if you are shifting by 2 at D, it will again collide. So 1 and 2 cannot be in your latency sequence. So your minimum average latency would be 3, because if you advance these cross mark by 3 units, there would be no collision. Okay, so if you advance this by 3, so it will come here at 5. If you advance this, it would come at 6. Okay, so similar case is here. If you advance it by 3, it would come here, and if you advance it by 3, it would go beyond this. So your minimum average latency or minimum average latency would be 3, because it will not create any sort of collision or conflict between the successive stages or stages with respect to the given reservation table. Okay, for multiplication, you can feed data without any conflict. Okay, so this is your reservation table for multiply, and this is your, so latency 3 would cause no collision, and you can feed the data without any conflict. Okay, so please note this point, that for latency 1 you have collision, for latency 2 you have collision. So ultimately latency 3 would be your sequence where you have no collision. Okay, you can feed data without any conflict. Now please see the reservation table for addition. So let's say this is again an assumption that your addition operation takes 9 clock cycles, and you are going to use the stages A, C, D, E, F, G, H. So these many number of stages you are using. Okay, now please find out the forbidden latencies. Okay, so A has constant latency, there would be no forbidden. B, there would be no forbidden. C, there would be again constant latency 4. For D, there would be constant latency 9. For E, there would be no forbidden, constant latency 8. For F, these are successive. So 3 minus 2 is 1. Under H, 7 minus 6 is 1. So your forbidden latency is equal to 1. Your collision vector would be 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, because you are using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You have 7 stages which are using for addition. So there would be 7 number of bits in collision vector, and your forbidden latency is 1. So first bit is marked as 1. So here what would be the minimum average latency? Because it's an addition pipeline, and under F and H there are 2 successive check marks. So your minimum average latency would be, naturally it would be 2, because if you shift it by 1, okay, it will collide here. If you shift it by 1, if you it will collide here, but if you shift it by 2, it will not collide. If you again shift it by 2, it will not collide. So your minimum average latency here would be 2. Okay, so that is the end of today's lecture. So in summary, what we have seen, so when we let's say we summarize till now what we have covered. We have covered basic pipelining concepts, we have covered pipeline scheduling, okay, and in this lecture we have covered the arithmetic pipeline. So in case of under arithmetic pipeline, we have covered floating point addition, floating point multiplication, and combined floating point addition and multiplication, that is multifunction output. And we have also seen that where there is a possibility of collision in case of reservation table. So it would be useful for vector processing or designed for vector of data, where you have 10,000 or millions of information which would be added together, and those addition may go into subsequent number of stages. So under vector processing, these arithmetic pipelines would be useful, and it would be a standard feature for modern day processor. Okay, so this is utilized very frequently in case of modern day processors, because today is the era where computation is needed worldwide. So this sort of pipeline is standard feature for modern day processor, and it would be useful for vector processors, or it is designed where you have array or vector sort of data operations. Okay, so thank you for today's lecture. In the next lectures, we will start the DMA and bus standards and input output organizations. Thank you.